welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a more recent one, and this was suggested by a number of you. I decided to do this video because it hits a little bit close to home for me. The places involved in this case are all places that I've been before, and being local somewhat to the area, I have heard about this case since it happened. So today's case is the case of Ashanti Billie. She was a 19-year-old girl from Maryland. She was known to be extremely bubbly, outgoing, made friends with absolutely anybody. She had just graduated from high school and had recently, in August, if I'm not mistaken, moved to Virginia Beach in order to pursue her lifelong dream, which was culinary school. She actually wanted to open her own bakery or become an executive chef. She had always been a really good kid. Her mother always told her, "You're one of the good ones," and she had a great relationship with her family. So when she moved to Virginia, she always kept in touch with her parents, but it was her following her dreams. She was a happy girl doing exactly what she wanted to be doing. When she first started school, she had discussed with her father getting a job. Her father's name was Tony, and he told her he didn't want her to. He thought her plate was a little bit too full, but she insisted, so she got a job at Blimpie Sub Shop, which was actually on a naval base in Norfolk, Virginia. Her parents both served in the Army. Her boyfriend was in basic training in South Carolina, so military was something she was very familiar with. And being a job on a base, a naval base in particular, her family then decided to push her to do whatever she wanted to do, and it overall would have just been a very secure and positive environment for her to be in. And at the same time, I can imagine growing up in a family where your life revolves around the military. It could be somewhat comforting to be in a place that kind of reminds you of home. On September 18th, however, her world would come to a stop, along with anyone who loved the absolutely amazing person that she was. Ashanti was scheduled to open up the sandwich shop that she worked in. She was an assistant manager, and she went early hours to open the shop so she could continue going on school later in the day. Her car was seen entering gate 3 of the base at 4:44 a.m. early in the morning. Her ID was then checked at 4:46, but by 4:47 you see her car leaving again. But the base says there was in fact an accident at that entrance, so they had to turn everybody around and make them go through another entrance. She then drove to gate 1, where she entered the base again right before 5 a.m. But at around 5:30, you see her car exit again, and she's never to be seen again. Sometime after 9 a.m., a coworker, Andrew Estrada, went to work. He showed up and realized that not a single person had opened up the shop. Knowing that Ashanti was the one who was supposed to do it, he was extremely shocked. She was, like I said, known as a very on-time person. Her boss really thought of her as the most reliable person. All of her coworkers knew that it was not like her to be late or not even excited to go to work. She always showed up on time, always did her job above and beyond. So this was extremely out of character for her. So Andrew decided to call the boss and report it, and then he decided to call Ashanti himself, and a stranger ended up picking up her phone. The stranger said that he was a construction worker and that he had found this phone in a dumpster in Norfolk, Virginia, about 3 miles away from the base. He said that he saw this phone on the top of the dumpster just thrown in, and it was fully charged, not damaged whatsoever, and he found it very strange that someone would want to dump a phone away in that condition, which is completely understandable. So he kept it in case the owner called back trying to retrieve the phone. Ashanti was considered a missing person rather quickly because this was completely out of character for her. She did not show up to school the rest of the day. She didn't ever contact her boss or even show up again in the security footage after she was seen leaving at around 5:30 in the morning. The search went on, and the parents really utilized social media, which I will stop right here and say social media can do so many things, and it is so powerful. And they really used that to their advantage. They had people that she knew in Suffolk, Virginia, and they had people that she knew back home in Maryland, and they were doing the absolute best they could to locate Ashanti because she was not the kind of person to just up and run away. On September 23rd, her car was found, and it was actually found on a dead-end road in the Ocean View area of Virginia Beach. I'll show you the road itself. The road, there's literally, it's just a cul-de-sac. Like, there's houses around it, but it's a very bizarre place for someone to drop a car off and somehow not be seen leaving the area. And that's when the FBI took over the case, because there were a lot of national resources that they could use that local jurisdictions would not be able to utilize fully. Also, being so close to the North Carolina border, they thought there was a possibility that she had crossed state lines, so they immediately jumped in to help the situation. Also, the naval base jumped in to help as well, since the last place she technically had been spotted was on their base. The FBI offered a $10,000 reward to anyone who could possibly lead them to Ashanti, figure out where she is, what she was doing, what happened that day, and then this to me speaks absolute volumes of who she was as a person. But the Blimpie sub shop owner then came forward a couple days later and matched the FBI's offer, bringing the total offer up to $20,000. Let me remind you, she had only been in this town for a little over a month, and she had made such an impression on her employer that he was willing to match $10,000 to help find her. Her mother then came out and said that it was completely unlikely that she left on her own. She was a huge creature of habit, which as a person like that myself, I totally understand. She really liked her comforts, she liked her routine. But unfortunately, the second that I saw that, it immediately reminded me of the Elizabeth Salgado case, a girl in a new town that she wasn't familiar with who disappeared in less than a month. Elizabeth as well was also a creature of habit, and that did not do anything good for her. So this, when I saw it, my heart immediately sank. She didn't have any bad relationships with anybody. She was planning on going and seeing her boyfriend the following month when he graduated from basic. She did have roommates and she got along great with them. She was just not the kind of person to have enemies. You can even tell when you look at pictures of her. She just seemed so happy and kind-hearted and friendly, and it was just shocking to a lot of people because there's no way she would have went away on her own, meaning someone had to have taken her. Even the night before, on Sunday night, on the 17th, she had talked to her mother and she was planning on going home and making fish tacos. She was at the grocery store, her boyfriend had talked to her. Not a single person thought she was acting out of character. So that made the chance of her just simply running away, along with the fact that her car was found, a very slim chance. That leads us to 11 days later, on the 29th of September, when unfortunately a landscaper uncovered Ashanti's body behind a church in Charlotte, North Carolina.
The search for a missing Virginia Beach college student has come to an end. The FBI confirmed the body found Friday morning behind a church is that of 19-year-old Ashanti Billie.
Apart from that, not much more information has been released. Like I said, this is a fairly fresh case, but there are so many crazy things happening here. Her body was found behind a church over 300 miles away. It takes about 5.5 hours to travel from where she was last seen to the church, so that's a pretty long drive. It did not take long for them to identify the body as Ashanti's. The parents, when they first heard about her missing, they immediately both flew to Virginia Beach. When they heard a body was found in Charlotte, they immediately flew to Charlotte. They were doing absolutely every single thing they could to try to find their daughter. So I'm pretty sure it was the next day after the body was found that they did determine it was Ashanti's body. I find it very heartbreaking because even the parents, as far as I know, are not aware how exactly she was killed. I know for a fact that she was buried earlier on this week. I'm pretty sure it was Monday, and the week before they did hold her funeral. But no one really knows at this point what exactly had happened to her or the state that she was in. The FBI are asking anyone who has any possible information to contact them. They have multiple different routes that they think this person could have taken to get from Virginia Beach all the way to this area in Charlotte. And they would like for any residents, any businesses that may have surveillance footage, or even little digital dash cams on cars, to please go through anything you might have and see if you possibly saw her car. It was a cream Mini Cooper with a black top on it. I'll have the license plate somewhere here on the screen. However, me personally, I do not think the car was used to take her. I think whoever did this used their own vehicle, and I will get into why in a minute. So if I'm looking down, it's just to get these highways and interstates correct. From Monday, September 18th to Saturday, September 23rd, police would like any information from anyone who might have seen this vehicle on Route 17 to Route 64, going from Virginia through Rocky Mount, through Raleigh, and then to Charlotte. If you were on this highway at any point in time and you saw a cream Mini Cooper, please contact the information down below. If you saw it going from 58 to 85 through Durham and Greensboro to Charlotte, or 58 to 95 through Raleigh to Charlotte. There are a lot of theories surrounding what possibly could have happened to her. All of them are pretty much that she was taken. But there's a lot of questions going around about the base itself. Their security footage when they released it was very grainy. It was not very good. A lot of people are really concerned about the level of security at this particular base. From my knowledge and the people that I have asked, in order to get on any sort of military base, you have to have your ID and you have to have a pretty good purpose of going there, or an address of exactly where you're going. They don't just let you on base, and then you also have to go visit the visitor center where I'm sure they take in all of your information. So was the person who took her possibly on base? You know, she did go in and she got into the base at around 5 in the morning. However, her mother did say that between 6 and 6:30 is usually when she got to the sandwich shop. So she did show up actually fairly early. You see her leaving about 30 minutes later, bringing us to about 5:30. So she only had about half an hour to an hour until she had to have the shop open. The mother herself truly thinks that there was someone on the base who might have been watching her, someone who has seen her before. Maybe it's someone who came into the shop. I personally think that is a huge, huge possibility. Keep in mind that this girl was extremely friendly and she made friends really easily, and you know, being on a base that reminded her possibly of growing up and having two parents in the army, you would tend to trust people very easily being in that sort of position. You know, it was early on a Monday morning. I'm assuming majority of the people that did work at the base had to be at work that day. And you know, if a visitor had just been coming in, what would their reasoning be at literally 5 in the morning to be on a base? I don't know. So it makes me question if it was potentially a visitor, if they would have allowed a visitor in at that point in time. I just don't see a reason why someone would need to be there between 4:30 and 5 in the morning unless they were working there. I also just don't think anyone that actually worked there would have purposefully taken a woman knowing that that would mean they wouldn't be accounted for that day at work. That's way too easily traceable. If someone worked there and did take her, I can imagine they probably wouldn't have been to work on time, if at all, and that would be way too easy to track, to go and see who didn't show up to work that day, and they would immediately be under the microscope. So to me, it's very possible that there was someone who maybe did work on the base at a place like one of these sandwich shops, but they didn't necessarily work on Monday. I think maybe someone came in there to get lunch, maybe someone talked to her, someone saw her in the parking lot and waved hi to her. She was a very friendly person. She would have said hi and probably talked to anybody. So maybe someone had been watching her, and since they did technically have a reason to be on base, maybe they didn't work that specific day, but they had easy access, maybe they thought that was the prime opportunity. In that case, she easily could have been approached by this person who she was somewhat familiar with, and I think they possibly asked her for a ride. Maybe they said that their car broke down and they needed a quick ride to home. I am assuming that, you know, being people who work on this base, they live fairly close by, and she did have half an hour till an hour until she was supposed to go to work. So being such a kind person, I wouldn't be surprised at all if she told this person she would give them a ride home and basically drove herself into what happened without knowing it, which I think is absolutely sick and heartbreaking that someone could take advantage of an extremely kind, good-hearted person that way. I just don't see it possible that it was just simply a visitor who would have no reason to be on there and would have to go through too many steps to identify themselves. I just don't see that being possible. I also don't see it being possible that someone who worked there every single day, Monday through Friday, like some of the people in the Navy themselves, I just don't think it would be them either. So that leaves me to someone who maybe worked at one of the other shops there. That's, to me, like the most obvious thing that had happened. So a lot of people out there are saying that she possibly did just run away and then get into some sort of trouble, or something happened, met up with the wrong person. You don't just get up for work at 3 or 4 in the morning and drive to work that early and not actually plan on going. I don't think this is nearly as simple as some people are making it seem, where she just walked off. You know, she was driving with intent to go to work. She was there early. Someone took advantage of her, I 100% believe. So I'm going to show you really quick this map. There's the base and there is the phone, and then if you go all the way over here towards the beach itself, this is where her car was actually located. It is literally a dead-end road. You would either have to know it's there or just hope to God you ended up in the right spot. which I think is very questionable in my opinion. But as you can see, there's a few houses over here. I mean, the car was possibly parked right beside this house. I don't understand how no one saw the car dropped off unless it was purposely dropped off in the middle of the night, which would make the most sense to me. But then if you go down this road, you'll see how easy it is to access this road. Someone could have made perfect turns and ended up in just the right spot. And as you can see already, we're on a main road. And even over here, if you look, you can get to the highway right there. You can even see the bridge. So it's such an easy escape after someone were to drop the car off. The only issue I have with that is that whoever dropped the car off would have had to walk somewhere. Someone had to have seen them walking on the sidewalk in that area. Granted, it very easily could have been the middle of the night. There's not really many good places to just park your car. There is a beach park a couple of blocks over, but there's nowhere really that you could hide a getaway car. So then if you zoom out again, you see that red dot is where she was, and literally all the way over here is Charlotte. That is a very, very long drive, and it is a very random place to me to pick. So really quickly, I want to talk about the highways, the possible highways this person used, and it makes me sick to my stomach because I have been on every single one of these and used these frequently. When something hits this close to home, it kind of sucks to realize that this car could have passed directly by me. I live fairly close to a highway, and it makes me have a pit in my stomach. So if I'm looking down again, it's just to get the highways correct. So one of their suggestions is Highway 58 to 85. That road has tolls, so they definitely did not take her car in that case. And that is personally what I believe. I do not think her car was taken. It has tolls. The car immediately will be recognized. Other than that, if they had the right time frame, you could easily see the cameras from the toll roads that I know that they do have and get anyone's license plate you needed. It would be very easy to link someone to the crime that way. So I highly doubt that they decided to use that road. The only thing that makes me think it's possible is that 85 was the highway that is right beside the church. I'm going to show you an image of the church right now. So here's the church over here. And then if you zoom out and look, there is a highway right here, and it is 85. So their next idea was 58 to 95. So from what I understand, I personally, I wasn't able to find it, but I don't think there's any tolls on this road, but it is the fastest, most direct shot. 95 is a very well-known highway. It connects absolutely everything. It would be the quickest option, the easiest option. So I definitely see it as a possibility. However, you would have to jump across multiple different highways to snake your way over to where the church would have been. So either the person planned this absolutely perfectly and this was like premeditated, or that wasn't the way that they took. And that leads me to what I think is the most possible route, and that is 17 to 64. So I am very familiar with this. This is the road that I take to go to the beach. It is in the middle of nowhere. These highways don't even feel like highways half the time. There is nobody on the majority of the time. It goes through a bunch of nothing, a bunch of farmland, really small towns where you can easily stop for gas and not even be seen. So to me, that is the most likely route that this person took. It hugs the coastline, so they would have just been able to stay at the coast, which is where Virginia Beach is, come straight down and then shot underneath along the border to Charlotte. It's also perfect for avoiding toll roads, so you would not easily be able to be seen on these highways. It is a pretty straight shot. The drive is a pretty straight shot. However, you would have to do a couple of little highway jumps, but the thing that gets to me the most is that there's a highway, I'm pretty sure it's 77, that goes directly off of 64 that leads you right beside the church, like right beside the church. So this one to me is probably the most likely route that this person took. So if you were on that route during the time and you saw any suspicious activity, please report it. So I want to speak a little more on the car, since that's really the only good piece of evidence that we have. So she was found on, I'm looking at a calendar, the 29th, which is a Friday, and she went missing 2 Mondays before that on the 18th. So landscapers usually come once a week, and being from the same sort of area, especially in the summer, things grow super fast, and usually it's once a week on the same day. Granted, this is just my speculation. They could do something completely different. So I'm assuming they would have been there on the 22nd, which is the Friday before, and the day before that they found Ashanti's car. So if the car had been sitting in the cul-de-sac for a few days, like people had said, this person would have immediately had to have taken her to Charlotte and dropped her there if they used her vehicle. However, if landscapers came every Friday, the landscapers would have been there a couple days after she was dropped off at this location, meaning someone probably would have found her. So I do not think it's very likely that they decided to use her car as the getaway vehicle and the transport vehicle. So to me, I definitely think someone had her for that entire first week hidden somewhere, dropped her car off, and then decided to drop her off sometime after the 22nd in Charlotte. But once again, that's all just assuming landscapers came weekly like they do where I live and from everything that I have seen. And then you look at the church itself, everything about this seems premeditated to me, which is why I agree so much with the fact that someone was potentially watching her. It's unfortunate to think that someone who is such a kind, giving person and such a kind-hearted person and just a warm person in general could unfortunately be taken advantage of. And while that's just my personal theory, I do not understand what else could have possibly happened. I mean, maybe it's a potential that someone off of the base did get in contact with her. My only issue with that is there would be a way to trace that by phone, and I feel like they probably would have more information at this point. So I think it was someone that walked up to her face to face on the base. I don't think she received any text messages or phone calls that would easily be monitored, easily be tracked. Especially with the FBI involved, all of those people would have been questioned at this point. I think it's absolutely heartbreaking what happened to Ashanti Billie, and I feel so deeply for her family, but the way they are handling this is like the most amazing thing I have seen in such a long time. There was a benefit concert that was held for her on October the 7th. All of the funds they raised went to have buses transport people to Maryland for the funeral. The rest of the proceeds, they used that to go towards a scholarship in her name at the Culinary Arts School. So I think that's absolutely amazing how the community came together and how people really supported this family. We have seen in so many cases that it can be the exact opposite. And this is the way everyone deserves to be treated. We all need to help each other. We need to be there for each other, lift these families up that have absolutely no idea what's happened to their child, support them as much as we possibly can. And as you all know, this is the absolute goal for my channel. I watched a few interviews with the parents where they spoke about some of the silly things that we get upset about in our day-to-day life and the silly things people argue about on social media. And instead of redirecting all of that energy into being so uppity over small, stupid things, we could be finding these people. And that's literally what my channel is here for. So this whole entire case just hit me so incredibly deep. You know, there could be so many things that you as a person could be doing to help out these families, help out these individuals. While something absolutely horrible happened, I do see so many positive things coming from it, which is a great way to handle a situation like this. One of the congressmen in the area actually confronted the Navy and that base about their security footage and about the lack thereof of proper security footage. And they are making huge strides right now to try to make that better, to get them proper funding to make sure they can update things like that, because things like this possibly wouldn't happen. The mother is also trying to get something put in place where an alert is sent out, because as she said herself, there is an amber alert and there's a silver alert. There's alerts for the really young and the really old, but the in-between are just kind of assumed to just be doing their own thing. And she said if there had been some sort of an alert like that, it is very likely that they could have found their daughter, and I 100% agree with that. I don't know what happened to her, but I have absolute full faith that this family and the FBI and every department and investigative team that's working on this case will take care of it, and they will bring Ashanti justice. They will bring her parents justice. These people don't back down. The parents are not backing down, and they are fighting not just for their daughter, but for any missing person out there. And I think that's the most beautiful thing in the entire world. Like I said before, there's not much factual information on this case yet. Not a lot has been released, so I will be updating you as there are updates to come. I will be doing live streams every single week now on Tuesdays between 5 and 6 p.m., more than likely 5 p.m. And that's where I will try to update you the most on this case. I have a huge feeling that they have a lot of information that they will have soon. And we'll see where it goes from there. Let me know your theories down below. It took a lot of searching on mine and really thinking things through. Do you think that they used her car to go drop her off? Do you think they used their own car? I mean, do you think this was someone that had been watching her inside the base? It's scary. It's scary to think that one of the places that's supposed to be extremely safe in there to protect you ends you up in a situation like this. It's just horrifying, and I hope the answers come soon. But on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and go, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to check out all of my social media links down below. I talk to you guys there all the time. I also did just reactivate my Facebook page for this, so you will see a lot of information on there as well, and I might do updates on there too. So be sure to go check me out there, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.